Morning. Hey, everybody, this is Paul Brantz with Clear to Close Brokers. I'm sitting here with Doug of Doug's Bugs. He is going to help really make the pest report as simple as possible. So things you need to know and stuff like that. The first thing I want to talk about, Doug, is when we were first talking, you mentioned Section 1, Section 2. Now, for realtors out there, now VA only requires Section 1, but there are lenders out there that do require Section 2.
Yes.
So it's not a VA requirement. It is actually a lender overlay. So that's something really important to know. Mm-hmm. So if people are asking for Section 2 repairs, other lenders won't ask for that. However, if you are working with a lender that may require Section 2 pest repairs that are completed, Doug, tell me a little bit about what you said and how you help really make the process a lot easier for realtors that are helping VA clients.
Yeah. So when it comes to the Section 2 items, what I've found over the years is that when they require the Section 2 items to be performed is how it's written. How did the inspector make the situation sound? Right. Because you can have the same thing. An inspector can say, hey, there are voids to grout throughout a kitchen counter. Recommendation, homeowner advised to regrout and seal counters to prevent future damages. Right. That sounds kind of alarming. While the exact same thing can generate in a finding, an inspector can say, hey, common voids to grout were noted in the kitchen. Recommendation, not even put a recommendation, just say homeowner advised to maintain as part of good property maintenance, or just maintain grouted and sealed. It sounds a lot better, and they're going off of what does it look like? What does this finding and recommendation appear? Is this going to lead to something, or is this just like, he's covering his butt, it's nothing to worry about?
That's a great point. I mean, it is truly in the words.
Yes.
I got a question for you, and I probably should have warned you about this question. And
okay.
There's no wrong answer, right? A lot of times, realtors believe that when someone goes out there to do a workup for the pest, they believe that they're creating work so that they can come back and get paid.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, what's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the first question I would one of the first things you do is, if I was a realtor, the first question I would ask is, when dealing with a company, is how are your inspectors compensated?
That's a great question. Okay.
Come on, let's come down to it. It's all about money, folks. If an inspector is paid entirely on commissions, where he makes money off of anything he can sell, they put him in the role of a salesman. He's going to be, trust me, he's going to start putting numbers on everything. You have a tendency to find stuff being called that may not have to be, or being made to sound really bad, like an emergency. Oh, you got to use me to fix this right away.
Right.
If you have an inspector that's paid almost entirely on hourly or salary, and like my inspectors, I pay them all hourly, and they get a small percentage of a profit off of their jobs. So if they can sell $10,000, if somebody books $10,000, I don't want to say sell, if somebody books $10,000 worth of work off of one of their reports, they might make an extra $50-$100.
That's nothing.
So it's nothing that warrants them trying to make anything up, because it's too big of a risk to make stuff up.
And that's huge advice. That's a great advice for anybody out there. How are your inspectors paid?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I'm a realtor, and I want to sell my home to, I'm pro VA, and I really want to give my veterans the best chance at getting their offer accepted. What are some common red flags that I should be looking for when I'm doing my own inspection to see if there's a lot of Section 1 items, and potentially what would come up, and the most common things that come up?
Yeah. So here's, taking into account all the disclosure laws, if you can do it with enough planning, right? There are companies out there like us that you can say, hey, I would like a limited inspection to just come out and run around the outside and jump underneath and tell me about any possible infestations, damages, or Section 1 items I have. Right. And then we would go out, and then right from the get-go, before you even listed the home and got into doing the full inspection for the sale, you would have an idea of what's going to appear on your report.
Right.
The drawback to having, to that is you are going to have to disclose it at some point.
Right.
From what I understand. So that's one way. The other one is if you as an agent or an owner want to do it, grab a screwdriver. You too can be a pest inspector.
All right.
Start poking. I mean, you walk around, you look at it and say, man, that looks a little weathered. That looks a little uneven.
Right.
Jab it with a screwdriver. Don't even have to jab it hard. If it's rotten, you'll know. Right. If it goes, tap, tap, it's good. If it goes crunch, it's not.
Tap, tap's good. Crunch, crunch is bad.
Yeah. You can look at things like that. Just step back and kind of look at the outside of the house. If you see, ripples, unevenness, black things growing out of cracks, if there's a lot of dirt touching the wood, all the things like that, then, you're running a higher risk of finding a lot of Section 1 work.
Is there a common Section 1 item that you run into on most houses? A common area?
Yeah. Dry rot, number one.
Okay.
People freak out over termites. Dry rot causes far more dollar damages than anything else.
Okay.
Where you want to look: seams, window trim, bottom corners of window trim at the seam, above door. If you have anything exposed to the elements, especially if you have a 2-story home, the south and southwest and west sides of the house, if those are 2-story, especially if it's the gable end, the end with the point, you're taking the brunt of everything. Those are going to be your high risk areas. If you have a house that's like colonial style with not a lot of eave protection, you run a higher risk of having damages. The other place is if you have any type of a deck where the deck touches the house.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Go nuts with the screwdriver. If you start shoving that screwdriver through the siding, you're now getting into decent dollars for repairs.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's usually the one that comes up is where the deck meets the house.
Yes.
And sometimes what they do is they just, depending on the deck, of course, they remove part of the deck and we're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So next question is going to be, so you've completed a report.
Yep.
Right. And you have your findings, you have your Section 1. Let's just focus just on Section 1 right now. What has come up in the past for me, I would love for you to address it, is that people agree to pay for the Section 1s, but they're always scared that you're going, not you personally, that the work, they'll find more work to do, more Section 1 items to do. Now, I understand in places where if you expose more, there may be more. But are you looking outside of the area that you are repairing? Does that make sense?
Yes. So here's again, and sometimes it's a trial and error to find an inspector that you trust. What I always hated, because I never was a salesman. I hate having to try and sell anybody anything. I never want to have to go to an owner and say, I need more money.
Right.
That's, to me, is sales. That comes across as instant sales. I hate that. So if I put out, and I tell, and my crew and my inspectors know this, if you are not really confident that you're not going to uncork more than another, $600, $700, $800 worth of damages on a repair, don't give a price. Give a price to find out. Give a much lower, say, listen, I'm not sure how bad this is. I need a couple $100 to open it up and find out. I'm not going to give you a $5,000 estimate just to 3 hours into the job go, guess what? It's now 10,000. That's what people hate. Or even another 2,000, 3,000. That's a decent inspector knows after so many years, all you need to do is push on it, and you push a little more and you go, oh, this is going farther. This will be framing damage.
Right.
Or you look at it and just go, this could go real sideways, folks. We got to open it up and find out.
Now, wouldn't you put on there further inspection required? Like,
on that? Here's where everybody gets in trouble, and this is something to teach all new agents. Mm-hmm. Don't ever grab a report, look at the diagram to see how many circles are on it. Don't think that less circles means it's a cleaner report. Okay. Right. It just means you may have an inspector that put it all into one. Okay. Right. And number two, don't ever just look at the circles and then grab the price sheet and look at the bottom line. There could be 2 items in there that the inspector is saying, I found damages. I don't know how bad they are. I need $500 to open it up to find out how many thousands it's going to be. And he'll say in the body of the report, cost given is for further inspections only, costs will increase. If you don't read that, you won't realize that $500 is just to find out how many thousands it's going to be.
Got you. Another thing too that kind of brought up, like if you're a lender out there, one thing that is if you don't have access to a spot, I've seen further inspection required, like because you don't have access.
Yes.
They won't see that as a section 1, but that doesn't mean that there's no section 1. So an underwriter will call that out. They will want you to uncover what is behind that. And so even though it's not coded as a section 1, you will need to.
You're unknown further inspections. Like the attic was blocked by the shelving unit. Real common. The garage was too packed full of storage. When you get it empty, all of a sudden you find the subterranean termites coming up the foundation. Things like that. Yeah, you do have to pay attention to that.
So lastly, let's end on that. What are some great tips for people to prepare their house for an inspection?
Okay, if you're having somebody to get an inspection, so one, you don't have to empty out underneath the sinks, but make sure that we can see the plumbing, including the valves, the plumbing, and at least some of the shelf, that we can at least get a screwdriver down onto the shelf under the plumbing to see if the shelf is rotten. In a garage, while you don't need to pull everything away from the walls, if there are some things that are somewhat easy to slide away from the walls so we can see the foundation, that's great. Make sure that the access to under the house is cleared.
Right.
That's a big one. People forget that the wine collection, the gun safe, something is sitting on top of that access. That's a big one. If it's any time in the winter or fall or early spring, open the access the day before, stick your head in there. If it's a lake, postpone your inspection, because most of us, if we show up on the inspection and we start it, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. Okay.
If you check that access 2 days before and go, wait, I've got a lake underneath my house, you call the termite company and say, hey, we need to postpone. I need to get this thing pumped out. Or we need to postpone till it hasn't rained for a few days and it's emptied out a little bit. The other one is people, we pop accesses all the time and we look inside and Mickey, Minnie, and all the gang have been living under there for so many years. There's an inch of rat feces underneath there.
Right.
That's unhealth. That's a health issue.
Right.
That's got to get dealt with before we can crawl it. And so all of a sudden you're listing and get the inspection and we go, guess what? Inaccessible due to unsanitary conditions. Now you're scrambling to find a company that will come in there and do the sanitary measures and the cleanup. Right. Getting things like that known ahead of time can save you a lot of headaches.
That's awesome. And I think also, you mentioned rats. We had a client that actually bought a house. They actually used a VA loan, and the inspector didn't go all the way up top. Now, I got to tell you, if they would have been caught during our loan process, the loan probably wouldn't have gone through.
Mhm.
However, my dear friend also wouldn't have had to dealt with this rat infestation. It was atrocious.
Yeah.
I don't know how they missed it, but it was behind all the insulation. It was way back there. And so I think sometimes things that they find, although it may not feel great in the moment, long term are going to really protect our clients.
Yes, it will. And the other one is unless when it comes to a WD, what we're doing, the WDO report, wood destroying pests and organisms, people always, because everybody refers to them as a pest inspection.
Yeah.
We can't include rats, mice, rodents. They're not part of the inspection. We're not licensed. I had the state inspector bust me because I used to put in my reports just as a note at the end, evidence of possible animal/rodent habitation. If you want to know more, call somebody else. And he goes, nope, you can't say that. I said, why? He goes, you've made an idea. I said, no. Wow. I said possible. He goes, you said possible. You're making an identification, unlicensed activity. You're not licensed.
So you're saying if I sent you out to that house, so that way, no, let's go back to my example. So even if they saw the rat feces, they wouldn't put it in that report?
They cannot specifically state. Wow. They would say, we inspected from the access. Wow. Possible, okay. And we'd have to use things like possible unsanitary conditions. We're not licensed to identify rodent/animal habitation. Call somebody else.
Gotcha.
So we can, it's like the whole M word, the wonderful MOLD.
Yeah.
We never say mold. We say either possible mold, bioorganic growth, evidence of excessive moisture, because it's not classified as wood destroying. We just note that it's possible because it's evidence of moisture.
Got you. Now, just curious, have you ever been at a house where it didn't have any Section 1 items?
Yeah, many times. It's really cool.
That is awesome.
I love it.
Yes, the reason I asked that is because I think people think that everything's going to have a Section 1. Because really my goal is to create more education for veterans to be able to use their loans.
Yeah. So
and their loans get denied, not denied from us. I'm talking about their offers don't get accepted because of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
People don't want to do the work.
Exactly. And then also the other one to remember is we can tailor a report. And if you get an inspector who knows how to play this game, you can tailor a report based on whether it's for sale of the home or refi of the home.
Okay. Tell me more.
Because if it's just going for a straight refi and we know that going into it, basically our viewpoint is, listen, you are a military veteran. We're trying to help you out here. You're just trying to refinance and get your money. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do everything I can to help do this. I can't make up Section 1. I mean, that's the law. I'm not going to break the law. But what I can do is truly completely restructure the format of the report to where everything sounds like nothing. And I tell them, I said, please don't try and use this report to sell your home.
Right.
Because we're going to do things, we're going to reword this report to make this fly as easy as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it's crazy. We've done so many refis on veterans.
Yeah, if you're just if you're helping just a veteran do a straight refi, oh God, everything becomes an information item. Gotcha. Section 2 becomes almost non-existent. And when it does, it's like so vague and the way it's written, there's no recommendations. Everything's put into just a finding. So there's nothing to trigger any type of alarm.
Now, a little bit about you. So I didn't. Do you service Solano County? I don't think you do.
Not yet. It's funny. We were just having that discussion this morning with one of my inspectors. We're talking about where are we going to go? Where's do we want to push beyond what we normally go?
Right.
And since I have an inspector who now recently bought a home in Napa, he's like, yeah, give me Solano County.
Yeah, he's right there.
I'll go. He's like. I said, okay, what bridge do you not want to cross?
Yeah.
And he's like, great. Well, maybe not the Carquinez, but definitely the Benicia. I said, got it. I got it.
All right.
So, and then into Fairfield, we might be, there's talks of that in the next year, pushing beyond.
Awesome. Yeah, because again, we talked about where this is going, all the way up to Sacramento and stuff. So I really, really appreciate your time, Doug. And we have your information right here. You know, if you're in Sonoma, Marin, Napa, and maybe even in Solano County, and you want a VA inspection, you know, we'll use you for sure. We just closed. That's how we met.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time and really educating us on this process.
Absolutely. And there's one last thing I want to bring up for your agents and for your lenders and stuff to check. Always, when you're coming to your VA, first thing to ask them, will they take an NPMA 33?
Okay.
Not many termite companies will even deal with that. We deal with it on a regular basis. You will get a full report with it, but what you submit to the underwriter, because we will completely fill out the NPMA 33 for you and issue you a complete report. And if a lot of the underwriters we're finding just want the NPMA form, which makes things a lot easier.
Okay. That's great. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't mean to rush you off. Is there anything else that you think I didn't ask you that would add value?
I just think the big one is get to know your inspector.
Right.
Talk to them. See what try and get a feel for them. See if we know when we're being sold.
Right.
And the biggest thing I can say is try and stay away from salespeople. Yeah, we're not sales. Us in the industry, even though they refer to us as, we're not salesmen. Right. We are licensed. We're a service provider licensed by the state of California.
Gotcha.
We're not selling used cars.
Well, I can tell you, we work together, and I really appreciate everything you did for us. That's how we got connected, and I'm hoping we can help more people together.
Absolutely. And tell any of your agents if they have questions, want me to look at another company's report, give my opinion, or one of my inspectors to give our opinion on it, not a problem. Call, bend my ear, ask questions. I'm fine with that.
That sounds great, man. I appreciate it, Doug.
All right.
All right, Doug. I appreciate you, man. And don't hang up. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. So bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.